Summer 2014, 17 million people dumped ice water on their heads, 10 billion video views, 440 million people watching, $115 million raised. But here's what nobody talks about. Most of them were doing it completely wrong. Today, we're uncovering the most successful failure in social media history, how a viral sensation raised massive awareness and money, while simultaneously proving that millions of people can participate in something without understanding what they're supposed to be doing. This is the story of how narcissism, disguised as altruism, accidentally saved lives and what it reveals about human nature in the digital age. The original rules nobody followed. Let's start with what the Ice Bucket Challenge was actually supposed to be. The original rule was beautifully simple. You either donate $100 to ALS research, or you dump ice water on your head and donate $10. The ice water was the penalty for not making the full donation. It was supposed to be mildly humiliating, a way to say, I can't afford the $100, so here's my public penance. But somewhere in the viral wildfire of social media, that message got completely flipped. Instead of the ice water being the lesser option, it became the main event. People started doing both, dumping water and donating money, completely missing the point. Even worse, many people started doing just the water part, skipping the donation entirely. They turned a fundraising mechanism into a pure attention-seeking stunt. The numbers are shocking. In the UK, 1 in every 6 people participated in the challenge, but according to the charity's Aid Foundation, only 10% of the participants actually donated money. That means 90% of the people thought dumping water on themselves was the charitable act. In the US, the donation rate was higher, but still, the majority of participants never gave a dime to ALS research. The accidental origins. The Ice Bucket Challenge wasn't originally about ALS at all. It all started as a generic dare. Dump cold water on yourself and challenge friends to do the same for any charity. But 3 young men with ALS, Pete Frates, Pat Quinn, and Anthony Senerchia, saw an opportunity. They were facing a death sentence with no cure, minimal research funding, and almost no public awareness. ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, is brutal. Most patients die within 2 to 5 years of diagnosis. Only 10% survive more than a decade. It paralyzes you slowly while leaving your mind completely intact. You're trapped inside a failing body, fully aware of what's happening around you. Pete Frates was 27 when diagnosed. A former Boston College baseball captain, he had connections in the sports world. Pat Quinn was 30, diagnosed just 1 month after his birthday. Anthony Senerchia had been fighting the disease for over a decade. These weren't professional fundraisers or marketing experts. They were desperate young men who took a silly internet trend and tried to use it to save their own lives and the lives of others like them. What they couldn't have predicted was how the message would have gotten completely distorted. The psychology of viral narcissism. To understand how the Ice Bucket Challenge went viral for all the wrong reasons, you need to understand the psychology of social media in 2014. Facebook was pushing video content, Instagram was exploding, the iPhone had made everyone a filmmaker, and critically, this was the era of Slacktivism, the idea that clicking, sharing, and participating in online trends was equivalent to meaningful action. The Ice Bucket Challenge hit the perfect storm of psychological triggers. It gave people a way to appear charitable while actually being the center of attention. You got to be the star of your own little video, show off your pain tolerance, and claim moral superiority, all while potentially contributing nothing to the actual cause. Dr. Sebastian van der Linden, a social psychologist who studied the phenomenon, identified this as a martyrdom effect. People donate more and consider their donations more valuable when pain and sacrifice is involved. But that only works if they actually donate. The challenge also exploited what psychologists call moral licensing, the idea that doing one good deed allows you to do fewer good deeds later. Studies show that the people who publicly demonstrated their virtue often became less generous afterward, not more. So, the Ice Bucket Challenge may have actually reduced overall charitable giving by making people feel like they'd already done their part. The celebrity amplification machine. Nothing revealed the challenge's transformation from fundraiser to attention grab more clearly than celebrity participation. Bill Gates built an elaborate contraption to dump water on himself. Lady Gaga did it in a bikini. Justin Bieber did it twice. Former President George W. Bush challenged Bill Clinton. The videos became increasingly elaborate, creative, and focused on entertainment rather than education. Here's what's telling. An analysis of 1,500 Ice Bucket Challenge videos found that 26% didn't mention ALS at all. Among those who didn't mention the disease, only 5% donated money. Even among people who mentioned ALS in their videos, only 25% actually gave money. So, 3/4 of the people who knew what the challenge was supposedly about still didn't donate. The celebrities weren't necessarily better. Many clearly saw this as a publicity opportunity rather than a charitable moment. The videos became about them, not about the ALS patients or research. The celebrity amplification had a paradoxical effect. It made the challenge hugely visible while simultaneously diluting the message. The Slacktivism critique. As the challenge exploded, so did the backlash. Critics coined new terms: Slacktivism, #activism, Narcissism disguised as altruism. Ariel Pardes wrote in Vice, "This is the crux of millennial #activism, where instead of actually doing something, you can just pretend like you're doing something by posting things all over your Facebook." The criticism was harsh, but often accurate. Many participants clearly cared more about their video's production value than about ALS research. Comment sections were filled with praise for people's creativity, not discussions of the disease. Some critics worried about cause displacement, where trendy causes suck attention and money away from more pressing but less viral issues. Why does everyone suddenly care about ALS, which affects about 16,000 Americans, while ignoring heart disease or cancer? Others pointed out that the challenge's viral nature might actually hurt long-term fundraising. Unlike campaigns like Movember, which builds ongoing identity and community, the Ice Bucket Challenge was a one-time spectacle that left no lasting engagement. As Vander Linden noted, when 1 billion people click on something, people no longer read it because they're interested in it. It becomes this superficial level of engagement. The accidental success. Here's where the story gets complicated. Despite being widely misunderstood and poorly executed, the Ice Bucket Challenge actually worked. The ALS Association raised $115 million in just 6 weeks, a 3,500% increase over their typical annual fundraising. Worldwide, the campaign raised over $220 million for ALS research. That money had real impact. It funded 322 research grants to 237 different scientists. It led to the discovery of new ALS genes, including NEK1. It helped develop new treatments, 2 new FDA-approved drugs since 2014, compared to just 1 in the previous decade. The number of ALS treatment centers nearly doubled from 100 to 226. Research collaborations increased dramatically. Scientific output from ALS researchers increased by 20%. More importantly, it gave hope to families facing ALS diagnoses. For the first time in decades, there was serious money, serious research, and serious progress against a disease that had largely been ignored. So even though most participants completely missed the point, their collective misunderstanding accidentally achieved something remarkable: the moral licensing effect. But the critics weren't entirely wrong about the psychological effects of the challenge. Studies on moral licensing show that when people perform one virtuous act, especially publicly, they often become less virtuous afterwards. It's as if they spent their moral currency and now feel entitled to be a little selfish. William McCaskill, a philosopher who studies effective altruism, calculated that if 50% of the Ice Bucket Challenge donations would have been given to other charities anyway, and if ALS research was less effective than other charitable uses, the campaign could have actually reduced net good in the world. The UK study found that while the challenge temporarily increased charitable giving and volunteering, most effects disappeared within a year. People went back to their previous giving levels once the viral moment passed. This supports the Slacktivism critique. Viral campaigns may actually discourage sustained charitable engagement by making people feel like they've already done enough. The exception was light donors. People who normally gave small amounts continued to give even after the challenge ended, but these were a minority of participants. The attention economy truth. The Ice Bucket Challenge revealed an uncomfortable truth about the modern attention economy. People will participate in causes that make them look good, regardless of whether they understand or support those causes. The challenge succeeded precisely because it wasn't really about ALS. It was about creating shareable content, getting likes and comments, and participating in a cultural moment. Consider the mechanics. You got to be the star of a dramatic video. You got to demonstrate pain tolerance. You got to publicly nominate friends, creating social pressure and drama. You got to appear charitable without necessarily being charitable. It was perfectly designed for the social media attention economy where visibility matters more than substance. The most shared videos weren't the most educational or the most generous. They were the most entertaining. People shared content that made them laugh, not content that made them think about ALS. This explains why 26% of videos didn't mention the disease at all. For many participants, ALS was just an excuse for the real goal, creating viral content. The 3 types of participants. Analyzing thousands of Ice Bucket Challenge videos reveals 3 distinct types of participants, each with different motivations and levels of understanding. Category 1, the true believers, approximately 25%. These people understood the cause, mentioned ALS in the videos, explained what the disease was, and actually donated money. They used the viral moment to educate others and raise funds. Category number 2, the social participants, about half. These people knew about ALS, but were mainly participating because friends challenged them. They mentioned the disease briefly, but focused on the fun aspect. Some donated, some didn't. Category number 3, the attention seekers, about 25%. These people either didn't mention ALS at all or treated it as an afterthought. They were purely focused on creating entertaining content, getting views, and being part of a trend. The tragedy is that Category 3 participants who contributed nothing to ALS research often got the most attention and shares, encouraging more people to participate for the wrong reasons. The challenge's spread internationally revealed even more confusion about its purpose. In many countries, people participated without any knowledge of ALS at all. They saw Americans dumping water on themselves and copied the behavior without understanding the context. Social media algorithms amplified this confusion. Platforms promoted videos based on engagement, likes, shares, comments, not educational value or charitable impact. The most viral content was often the least informative. Funny fails got more views than disease education. Celebrity stunts got more shares than patient stories. This created a feedback loop where participants learned to prioritize entertainment over education, viral potential over charitable impact. The challenge became a global game of telephone, where the original message got increasingly distorted with each repetition. The real heroes. While millions of people were misunderstanding their campaign, Pete Frates, Pat Quinn, and Anthony Senerchia were dying. Pete Frates passed away in December 2019 at age 34. Pat Quinn died in November 2020 at 37. Anthony Senerchia died in November 2017. These 3 men didn't live to see all the research breakthroughs their campaign funded. They never got the treatments that might have saved them. But they did something extraordinary. They turned their personal tragedy into a global movement. Even though most participants missed the point, these 3 men's desperate gamble paid off. Their willingness to exploit a silly internet trend for a serious cause generated more ALS research funding than the previous several decades combined. Peter Frates' Family Foundation continues their work. Pat Quinn became a powerful advocate for ALS awareness before his death. Anthony Senerchia's family maintains his legacy through continued fundraising. They understood something that the critics missed. Sometimes imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. The lasting paradox. 10 years later, the Ice Bucket Challenge's legacy is complex and paradoxical. It raised massive funds and accelerated research, leading to new treatments that are helping ALS patients today. But it also demonstrated how easily charitable causes can be co-opted by attention-seeking behavior. It proved that viral campaigns can work, but also that they work for the reasons their creators never intended. Most participants cared more about social media engagement than ALS research, yet their collective narcissism somehow saved lives. The challenge succeeded despite itself, raising money through misunderstanding, generating awareness through confusion, and creating hope through vanity. Recent studies show that while the Ice Bucket Challenge temporarily increased charitable giving, it had no lasting effect on most participants' generosity. They went back to their previous donation patterns once the viral moment passed. But for ALS research, the temporary surge was enough to permanently change the trajectory of the field. The uncomfortable lessons. So, what did we learn from the Ice Bucket Challenge? The lessons are uncomfortable but important. First, the good outcomes can emerge from bad motivations. Most participants were primarily seeking attention, not supporting ALS research, but their collective self-interest accidentally funded breakthrough research. Second, that understanding isn't necessary for impact. 90% of UK participants never donated money, yet the campaign still raised over $200 million globally. Confusion and success can coexist. Third, that viral campaigns succeed by appealing to narcissism, not altruism. The challenges that go viral are those that make participants look good, not those that do the most good. Fourth, that the attention economy can accidentally serve good causes. Platforms designed to maximize engagement, not charitable impact, somehow generated massive funds for medical research. And finally, that desperate people can exploit shallow systems for profound purposes. Pete Frates, Pat Quinn, and Anthony Senerchia understood their audience better than their audience understood their cause. The Ice Bucket Challenge wasn't the story of social media bringing out the best in humanity. It was the story of 3 dying men manipulating social media's worst impulses, vanity, attention-seeking, performative virtue, to serve a desperate cause. They succeeded not because people cared about ALS, but because people cared about appearing to care. They raised money not through education, but through entertainment. They generated awareness not through understanding, but through participation. And somehow, that was enough. 10 years later, ALS patients have more treatment options, more research funding, and more hope than they've had in decades. Not because social media made people more generous or more informed, but because 3 dying men figured out how to weaponize human vanity for good. The Ice Bucket Challenge taught us that in the attention economy, sometimes the best way to save lives is to let people think they're just making content. And that might be the most uncomfortable truth of all.